Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Today is Thursday here in Eretz Yisrael. I'm recording for Shabbos Parshas Kedoshim, but it's Yom HaShoah, and I wanted to share a thought about Yom HaShoah. We had a very special commemoration today in Yeshivat, and we had this schus, a really, really beautiful schus of having Rav Sinai Adler speak to the boys today. Rav Sinai Adler lives here in Mevaseret. He's over 90 years old. He's a survivor from Auschwitz, from Mauthausen, from Theresienstadt. And he should live and be well and continue to be healthy. But he shared with us some really special insights, a couple of stories that he experienced himself personally. I want to share one with you. He tells over the story that when he was in Mauthausen, in the direst of conditions, in a concentration camp in 1945 in Austria, the war was still going on and Austria was under German control. This was after he left Auschwitz. And there was a problem with typhus, there was a problem with disease, and they decided on this given winter night in December, January in the camps, they decided they were going to disinfect all the prisoners and disinfect the clothing, the blankets, everything else. So they took everything for disinfection because of lice, typhus, and the like. And it turned out that the machine that was dealing with the clothing broke. And as a result of the breakage of the machine, so they couldn't get back their clothing. It was in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. They were without clothing, dead winter, and they were sent back to their barracks. They all go back to their barracks with literally a very, very thin, what you call a sheet of a blanket on them, pretty much sleeping on the floor. And that was how they were supposed to spend the nights, starving and the like. Rav Sinai is 16 years old at the time. He hears a call from a fellow in the same bunk, and he says, "You know what? Maybe we should sleep together under the same blankets. We'll have 2 blankets, and our body heat will go ahead and protect us from the bitter, bitter cold." So Rav Sinai said, "Okay, we'll go ahead and do that." And then he says to him, they lie down. They're starting to get a little bit of warmth, and then he says, "Before we go to sleep, do you mind learning with me?" Learning with you? We're in barracks, dead winter. There are no Svarim, no Gemaras, no Tanakh, no Chumashim. Learning with you. And the gentleman says, "Well, we have every night, before I go to sleep, I have a Seder Limud. I learn with myself. When I was in Cheder many years ago in Hungary, so they used to teach us Gemara Baal Peh in a sing-song, and I still remember some of the dapim of Gemara that I used to learn as a child, and I learn over those Gemaras before I go to sleep every single night." So they learned together in the bitter cold, in the Holocaust, without clothing, and they learned together this particular night. So Sinai shared with us that from here we learn a fundamental yesod, is Kihem Chayenu Va'orech Yameinu. The Rambam writes Torah that a person's obligation of learning is Ad Yom Moso, because Kihem Chayenu Va'orech Yameinu V'Nega Yomam V'Layla. And it's interesting, is that in the same exact way that we need food to survive, the guf needs food to survive. So Rav Sinai said a Jewish neshama needs Torah to survive. That's what it's necessary for its survival. And Rav Sinai shared with us, he became the Rav Harashi of Ashdod, tremendous Gadol b'Yisrael, Rosh Kolel, many accomplishments in learning Sfarim and all of the like. He says from this story that happened, he remembered that no matter what circumstances he found himself in, there was always room, there was always an ability to learn Torah. And it was phenomenally inspiring. Rav Sinai explains that there's some very strange Gemaras. The Gemara tells Maseches Nida that an ubar, a fetus, while it's in the mother's womb, learns Kol HaTorah Kula. And then when it leaves the womb, so it loses that Torah. Strange. If it's going to lose the Torah, then why learn the Torah in the first place? The Gemara tells Maseches Sukkah that once a child knows how to say Shema Yisrael, or Torah Tziva Moshe, then it's an obligation to start teaching the child Psukim. He's 1.5 years old. He doesn't have the intellect to really understand that which he's learning. What's the point of teaching him these Psukim, these verses? So Rav Sinai explained, a chiv of Talmud Torah, a fetus does not have a chiv of Talmud Torah. A 1.5-year-old child, 2-year-old child is not a bardas, does not have a chiv of Talmud Torah. But there's another aspect of Torah study. The other aspect of Torah learning is its nourishment for a Jewish neshama. A Jewish neshama, to live a complete life, needs that nourishment of Torah. So in the same way that the fetus is drawing physical nourishment from his mother through the umbilical cord, so it needs that spiritual nourishment from this spiritual source to teach a Torah. Once a child is able to speak, he needs to be able to be taught the psukim, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe, Morasha Kilas Yaakov, because in addition to the chiv of Talmud Torah, there is also just what we need to have a complete Jewish life is to be connected to Torah Hashem. That's the food for the neshama. And Rav Sinai tied this into his experience in that concentration camp. Was there a chiv of Talmud Torah there? No way. No way. Ones Rachmana Patre, they were 100% exempt. And nevertheless, they will still need, just like they had to have at least a piece of bread, some watery soup just to survive the day. So this Jew taught Rav Sinai that a little bit of Torah in the day is what we need to survive the day spiritually. That's what our neshama needs to go the next step. And that's the core and fundamental and inspiring lesson. It was such a schus to hear from Rav Sinai this morning, and the inspiration. Guys asked him some questions, which amazing. We have a lot of questions when we think about the Shoah, when we think about what happened. How could Hashem let it happen? And Rav Sinai, who lived it, who was there with Emunah Pshuta, said, you know what? When a father has to sometimes give a patch to his child, the child doesn't ask whether his father loves him or not. This is how Hashem runs the world, sometimes with Midas Hadin, sometimes with Midas Harachmin. We don't have real answers to these questions. But the Emunah of Rav Sinai was certainly an inspiration to me this morning, and inspiration to the boys, and we should tap in to the critical lessons. We have very special days here in Eretz Yisrael this time of year, Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron next week, Yom HaTzmaut, and to tap into the very, very unique destiny of Klal Yisrael that is literally happening before our eyes, to be sensitive to it, to see how we have come so far from the worst of Mimamakim, from the worst of the depths, and where we have emerged to understand on the one hand the Midas Hadin, and then at the same time the Midas Harachamim that we've been zoche to, sensitivity to the anti-Semitism that all of a sudden is sprouting all around us, but to also see, yes, the Midas Hadin, and at the same time the Midas Harachamim.